You finally sit on the couch. You should be relaxing, but instead, your chest feels tight. A quiet, nagging voice whispers, "You are wasting time." You probably think this guilt is a sign of a strong work ethic. It's not. It is a glitch in your nervous system. Today, we uncover the hidden psychology of Stresslaxing, why your brain perceives rest as a literal threat, and the exact decompression protocol you need to finally turn your mind off. Imagine this scenario. It is Friday evening. You have survived a grueling week of deadlines, endless emails, and putting out fires. You order your favorite food, you dim the lights, and you pull up a movie you've been waiting to watch. The conditions for relaxation are absolutely perfect. But 15 minutes into the movie, something strange happens. You aren't paying attention to the screen. Your leg is bouncing, your breathing is shallow. You suddenly remember an email you forgot to send. You feel a sudden, irrational urge to reorganize your kitchen cabinets. And before you know it, you are mindlessly scrolling through your phone, not because you want to, but because doing nothing feels unbearable. You are experiencing something psychologists refer to as relaxation-induced anxiety. On the internet, it's sometimes called stresslaxing. It is the paradox of feeling deeply exhausted and desperately craving rest, but feeling a crushing wave of guilt the moment you actually try to take it. To understand why this happens, we have to look past your mindset and look directly at your biology. Because this isn't just a mental block, it is a physiological withdrawal. Let's talk about the biological trap. Your autonomic nervous system is divided into two main branches. First, you have the sympathetic nervous system. This is your gas pedal. It is responsible for your fight or flight response. When you are answering urgent emails, navigating traffic, or stressing over a project, this system floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline. It sharpens your focus, dilates your pupils, and gets you ready to survive. Then you have the parasympathetic nervous system. This is the brake pedal. It is responsible for rest and digest. It slows your heart rate, repairs your cells, and calms your mind. Here is where the glitch occurs. Modern life requires you to keep the gas pedal pinned to the floor almost constantly. You wake up to an alarm, immediately check notifications, rush to work, consume caffeine to sustain the rush, and spend 8 to 10 hours operating in a state of low-grade chronic emergency. Your brain gets used to this. It adapts to the high levels of cortisol and adrenaline. To your nervous system, this hyper-aroused state becomes your new baseline. It becomes safe. So, what happens when Friday night rolls around and you suddenly sit on the couch? You are taking a car that has been driving 100 miles per hour for 5 days straight, and you are slamming on the emergency brake. The sudden drop in stress hormones confuses your brain. Remember, your brain's primary job is survival. When it senses a sudden, drastic drop in stimulation and adrenaline, the amygdala, your brain's threat detection center, wakes up and sounds an alarm. It thinks, wait, why did we drop our guard? Why is everything so quiet? Did we miss a threat? Is there a predator nearby? Your brain literally interprets the lack of stress as a sign of impending danger. So, it pumps a fresh hit of adrenaline into your bloodstream just to get you back up to that hyper-vigilant baseline. That tightness in your chest, that sudden urge to check your phone, that feeling that you are forgetting something important. That is not your work ethic talking. That is your biology going through acute stress withdrawal. Your brain is artificially manufacturing anxiety because it has forgotten how to feel safe in the quiet. But the biological trap is only half the story. The other half is the psychological trap. Specifically, a deeply ingrained cultural equation that you have been taught since childhood. The equation that says your worth equals your output. We live in a hyper-productive society that glorifies the hustle. From a very young age, we are conditioned to believe that our value as human beings is tied to what we can produce, achieve, and check off a list. Good grades, good colleges, good salaries, promotions. We are praised for our exhaustion. We treat burnout like a badge of honor. Because of this conditioning, Idleness is no longer seen as recovery. It is seen as a moral failure. When you sit down to relax, you are violating the core rule of this cultural programming. The guilt you feel is the fear of losing your value. If you aren't actively producing something, who are you? What is your worth? This brings us to a phenomenon we can call the clean slate illusion. If you are a high achiever, you probably tell yourself a very specific lie. You say, "I will finally relax when everything is done. I just need to finish this project, answer these last few emails, clean the entire house, and get my inbox to 0. Then, the slate will be clean, and I will have earned my rest." But you and I both know the truth. The slate is never clean. The moment you answer an email, someone replies. The moment you finish a project, a new one is assigned. The laundry is a continuous cycle. The horizon of done keeps moving further away. If you require all your work to be finished before you are allowed to rest, you are guaranteeing that you will never rest. You are treating relaxation as a conditional reward that must be earned, rather than a fundamental biological need that must be met. And there is an even darker layer to this psychological trap. For many of us, constant productivity is actually a defense mechanism. It is a way to numb out. When you strip away the tasks, the deadlines, and the external validation, what is left? You are left alone with yourself. For the modern overthinker, the void of idleness is terrifying. Silence invites the very thoughts you have been using busyness to avoid. Unprocessed emotions, existential questions about your career, doubts about your relationships. It is much easier to answer emails for another 2 hours than it is to sit in a quiet room and confront the fact that you might be climbing a ladder that is leaning against the wrong wall. So, you keep moving. You keep scrolling. You keep finding trivial tasks to occupy your hands because, as long as you are busy, you don't have to listen to the quiet. So, how do we fix this? How do we turn off the threat response and actually allow our minds and bodies to recover without the crushing weight of guilt? You cannot simply force yourself to relax. Telling an anxious brain to just calm down is like throwing gasoline on a fire. Instead, we have to bypass the threat detection system using a structured framework. This is the Decompression Protocol. It consists of 3 specific steps to manually switch your nervous system from sympathetic survival mode into parasympathetic recovery. Step 1. Build a decompression bridge through active rest. The biggest mistake high achievers make is trying to go from 100 miles per hour straight to 0. You close your laptop after a stressful day and immediately lay down on the couch to watch Netflix. The contrast is too sharp. Your brain rejects the sudden passivity. You need a bridge. You need to downshift gears slowly. This is where active rest comes in. Passive rest is low-effort consumption, like scrolling social media or watching television. While this feels easy, it doesn't actually process the stress hormones out of your body. Active rest, on the other hand, involves engaging in a low-stakes, highly tactile activity that occupies your mind just enough to prevent rumination, but doesn't trigger stress. You need to give your brain a job that doesn't matter. This could be putting together a Lego set, doing a jigsaw puzzle, gardening, sketching, cooking a meal from scratch, or even just going for a long walk without listening to a podcast or an audiobook. These activities require light focus and physical movement. They engage your motor cortex. By focusing on a simple physical task with no deadline and no consequences for failure, you signal to your amygdala that the environment is safe. You aren't doing nothing, which triggers the guilt. You are doing something restorative. A 30-minute decompression bridge of active rest will safely burn off that residual adrenaline, allowing you to actually enjoy the passive rest later in the evening. Step 2. Schedule external worry time. Your brain uses guilt to remind you of uncompleted tasks. It is afraid that if you relax, you will forget something important. To neutralize this mechanism, you must externalize the anxiety and create absolute boundaries. When you finish your workday, Do not just walk away from your desk. You need a closing ritual. Take a physical piece of paper and write down the brain dump. List every single email you didn't send, every project that is incomplete, and every anxiety that is currently floating in your working memory. Once it is on paper, it is no longer your brain's responsibility to hold on to it. Then, you explicitly schedule a time to worry about it. Tell yourself, out loud, I will handle these exact issues tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Until then, I am officially off the clock. If you sit on the couch later and the guilt flares up, reminding you of a project, you don't fight the thought. You simply acknowledge it and say, that is written down. We are dealing with that at 9 a.m. tomorrow. You have to parent your own brain. You have to show it that the threats are managed, cataloged, and scheduled. When the brain trusts your system, it stops using guilt as an alarm bell. Step 3. Reframe rest as required maintenance. This is the cognitive shift that changes everything. If you view rest as a reward for being productive, you will always feel guilty because you will never feel productive enough to earn it. You need to completely invert this equation. Rest is not the reward for doing the work. Rest is the required maintenance to ensure you can do the work tomorrow. Look at elite athletes. Professional runners don't view a rest day as a sign of laziness or a lack of discipline. They view recovery as a critical, non-negotiable part of their training block. Without the rest day, the muscles cannot rebuild. Without the rest day, the athlete breaks down and gets injured. Your mind works the exact same way. Cognitive fatigue is real. Decision fatigue is real. When you refuse to relax, you are not being a high performer. You are being reckless with your most valuable asset, your attention and your mental clarity. The next time the guilt creeps in while you are trying to read a book or watch a movie, remind yourself of this biological fact. Down-regulation is productive. Letting your nervous system return to baseline is an active, necessary process. You are not wasting time. You are performing essential maintenance on the machine that runs your entire life. Rest is a discipline. It requires intentionality. It requires pushing back against a culture that wants to grind you into dust. If you cannot rest without feeling guilty, you do not own your time. Your anxiety owns it. It is time to take your time back. Start with the decompression bridge. Write down the worries, and give yourself the radical permission to simply exist without having to produce. Before you click away, I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, what is your favorite active rest hobby? What is that one low-stakes activity that actually helps quiet your mind? If this decompression protocol helped you understand your own mind a little better today, hit the subscribe button and join the Rewire Mind Lab community. We are building a mental framework here, and I want you to be part of it. Now, if your brain absolutely refuses to shut up when you try to relax, it is highly likely you are trapped in a chronic overthinking loop. To fix that, check out the video on the screen right now, where we break down the psychology of overthinking and how to permanently escape it. Thank you for your time today. Master your mind, and I'll see you in the next one.